Will renewed talks between the actually bring peace, or are we just watching another pause before a bigger crisis? At first glance, the idea of talks restarting sounds like a positive step. Diplomacy is always better than conflict. But behind the headlines, experts are raising serious concerns. Let's understand why. The relationship between the United States and Iran has been tense for decades. Even when agreements have been reached in the past, they haven't lasted. The most notable example is the nuclear deal, which was once seen as a breakthrough but later collapsed. That moment changed everything. Iran began to question whether any agreement with the U.S. could truly be trusted in the long term. On the other hand, U.S. policymakers remain skeptical about Iran's intentions. This mutual suspicion creates a fragile foundation for any future talks. At the center of the conflict is Iran's nuclear program. The U.S. wants strict limits or even a complete halt to uranium enrichment, fearing it could lead to nuclear weapons development. Iran, however, insists that it has the right to pursue nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. This disagreement is not just technical, it's political, strategic, and symbolic. Neither side is willing to fully back down, and that's why negotiations repeatedly stall. In diplomacy, success often depends on compromise. But here's the problem. Both Washington and Tehran have drawn clear boundaries they refuse to cross. The U.S. demands guarantees that Iran will never develop nuclear weapons capability. Iran demands relief from sanctions and recognition of its sovereignty. These positions are not easily adjustable. Experts point out that without flexibility, talks may resume, but meaningful progress remains unlikely. Even as discussions about diplomacy make headlines, real-world actions paint a more troubling picture. Military posturing, regional conflicts, and economic pressure tactics continue. Strategic waterways, energy routes, and regional allies all play into the equation. When actions on the ground contradict the language of diplomacy, it undermines trust. Experts argue that you can't build peace at the negotiating table while maintaining pressure elsewhere. Negotiations are most effective when both sides feel a strong need to compromise. Right now, that urgency appears to be missing. Iran has strengthened certain aspects of its nuclear capabilities, while the U.S. continues to rely on sanctions and international pressure. Both sides believe they hold leverage, and when both parties think they are in a strong position, neither is willing to make the first move. That's a classic deadlock. This is not just a two-country issue. The U.S.-Iran relationship is deeply connected to Middle East stability, global oil markets, and international alliances. Other countries are closely watching and influencing the situation. Any agreement must consider these broader dynamics, making negotiations far more complicated than they appear. Many analysts believe that even if negotiations resume, they may only reduce tensions in the short term. In other words, talks might delay conflict but not resolve the underlying issues. Without addressing the core disagreements, any progress could be temporary. That's why optimism remains limited.